Hi, how are you? Welcome again to my kitchen. Today I want to talk with you about tabletop entertaining, about gathering around a single table and cooking right there. It's great fun. Most of us think that the beginnings of tabletop cooking were probably the fondue pot. But you know this dish, and that sticks and all, and a lot of cheese and some good bread and some friends. But it didn't start there at all. The history of cooking equipment goes something like this. First of all, it was a stick over a fire. That was probably Peking man thousands of years ago. Then secondly, they came up with a stone. They realized that a hot rock alongside of the fire was great for cooking things, and they would simply lay stuff on the stone. Thirdly came a basket of woven fibers, very tightly woven, and they could throw hot rocks into that and boil things in the basket. And then, of course, eventually the clay pot. And finally, during the Bronze Age, helmets were used. I'll show you. Helmets were used to protect the heads of the invaders from the north, the Mongols, you see. And at night they would take these helmets off and put them in the fire upside down, put in some water, and they would all sit around and cook out of it. That is the birth of the wok. You see, these are too large to wear, but you could. It's raining out, David, put on your wok. No, that's what used to happen. You see? This is our basic frying pan from China, a wonderful device, and its birth goes to the helmet. And I'll show you what has happened in terms of development since that time. I have a wonderful device here called a hoko pot. Now, why was the hoko pot used? Well, you understand that in the wintertime in China or Japan, you all sat around the central heat source. You didn't have a kitchen with heat in it and then have a furnace down in the basement. None of that. You had one fire in the house and you cooked over it. This is a clever device. We're going to put charcoal in this. See, the charcoal goes down this chimney. It's like that angel food pan, you see? The charcoal goes down the chimney, and we'll put soup in here, and then put the lid on. Charcoal goes down the chimney, and this will cook everything we want to put in it in the course of the dinner. And it's great fun. These are the little gadgets you use for taking the food out. They're little baskets, you see. Everyone has their own, and a rice bowl. It's terrific fun. So let me fill it up, and we have a batch of soup ready. First of all, I'm going to put some water in the bottom of this dish so that I don't burn up my table. It's important to remember this. And when you do this at home, be sure you have ample space underneath your table, good padding underneath there. All right, we're ready. Get rid of the mess I've made here. The soup goes in the pot. This is simply a good chicken broth with a bit of a couple slices of fresh ginger in it, so that it has a marvelous Chinese flavor. That's about a quart. There we are. Already this is fun, isn't it? Now we have to get the charcoal in there right away. I'm just going to leave the ginger in there. It won't matter. We'll get the charcoal in there right away. And this is a hot item, so be careful now. Put the lid on. And I've started my charcoal. Did I handle that? Yes. I've started my charcoal in a coffee can. You see, I have some. Where's my grater? I've got to reach it again. Hold on here. There it is. I have holes in the bottom of the coffee can so that it's easy to handle. Now, we'll get a pan over here, and we must be very careful with this. Don't let the kids fool with it either. We'll put the charcoal, the burning charcoal goes down the chimney, and this will be our fire, and keep the whole thing hot. You're right. This is not something you fool with. But once you get one of these things going, you see, in the dining room, and keep the windows open. This is not good practice in a closed house. For our family, this is a summertime dish. There. That should do us. All right, now I'll show you how to begin cooking. The menu is everyone to their own. You pick out what you like off the platter, and we can have a grand time. There. That should get us started. Should be hot enough for a time. I have a couple of bricks back here that I stole from the backyard, and they'll do fine in terms of protecting my counter while I'm waiting for the coals to get hot. Or you can do it out in the backyard. Or out in the balcony, out in the deck, you see. It won't matter. I want to blow the dust off so that I don't get dust on it now when I... See, it's cooking away already. Isn't that a riot? All right, let's close it up now, and I'll show you the assortment of vegetables that we have. Oh, let's see. Is that the sukiyaki? Here it is. Too many things going on. You put a big platter of vegetables and food on the table. Beautiful things. There. And people simply choose their own and you each cook for yourself, and then slide everything into the pot and have a wonderful time. We have some napa. Remember, napa is a Chinese celery cabbage, and we've simply sliced that up. We have some green onions, beef thinly sliced, bean curd, large shrimp, raw, sugar peas, and some raw chicken, and in the center, gorgeous mushrooms. So dinner would go this way, and it's great fun. Dinner would go this way. Everyone would begin to gather, and you'd put in some beef, first of all, for everyone. We'll just slide them in here. And be sure and spread them around now. You want to be fair about this. All right, the beef goes in. Put in some chicken. And just let all of this cook for a time. And now we want some Chinese mushrooms and some bean curd. Now you can start these, you can eat these individually if you like. That would be much more typical of a Chinese household. Some shrimp. There. We'll top this off now with some bok choy, napa, excuse me, you can use bok choy too. That's another Chinese vegetable. It looks very much like Swiss chard, but it's not, of course. Some green onions cut in long, you see how I've cut these? Long, thin strips, okay. And some sugar peas, fresh sugar peas if you can find them, or any plain peas, round ones if you like. Where are my chopsticks? I want to push that down into the pot. Now, the only problem here is that everyone takes their little scooper, and when they're ready to help themselves, they'll pick something up, but they know where the shrimp is. So you've got to watch your neighbor if he's a cheater, because he can get the bath going this way, and the shrimp will go around, and he'll pick out all the shrimp. You've got to watch him every minute. All right, let's cover that up and cook it. It'll be ready to eat in just a moment. And I want to show. Oh, and the last thing you'd put in, the last thing would go in the pot, of course, when you have the all the food out, and you have nothing but soup left, which is now flavored beautifully, would be a batch of noodles. Pre-cook them for a moment, you see, and then throw in the noodles, and you close the meal with noodles. You're going to say, well, isn't that normally how you start the dish? No, this is the way you close, because noodles mean longevity. The longer the noodle, the better the noodle. You see, it means long life. So you always close a formal party in China with long noodles to wish everyone a long life. I like that. I think that's nice. All right, let's make a couple of quick sauces for you. My favorite one is a bit of peanut butter, about 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. That should do us. A little bit more maybe, huh? And then I want to add about a half a cup of hot water. And I'll get that right out of the tap here. All righty. Well, let's use this one. I've got one of those boiling water taps here in my fancy sink. It's just a scream. I just love it. Half a cup of water. We're going to put in about 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. 1, 2, 3. And a bit of Tabasco, and this is strictly to taste. Or you can use Chinese garlic and pepper sauce. I like that even better. We want to make a nice sauce for dipping, particularly the beef. That's the best part. Now this would be served on a little saucer for everyone. Peanut butter sauce. Let me try it. Oh, it's just marvelous for dipping in the beef. Really good. All right, let's put those aside. You can make another one of soy sauce, rice wine vinegar, and a little vermouth if you like. That's good too. So much for the hoko pot. You want to see how it's looking now? Everything's about ready. Isn't that beautiful? It's still cooking away. When you want to put out the fire, you simply take a Chinese teacup, fill it with water, and set it on top. That will block off the airflow from the bottom through the chimney, and the fire will go out. It's quite safe if you are safe, if you're careful. Let's get it out of the way here. All right. Now, the second thing that is so very common in the Orient is a Japanese sukiyaki. And the only difference between these two dishes is that sukiyaki is made in a frying pan with a sauce, and the dish we've just had is made as a soup, but the ingredients are basically the same. I have a tabletop cooker from Japan. Look at this. It has a tank in it, a little butane tank. In the old days, you used a charcoal burner for these, and you put a frying pan on top of the charcoal burner. But now you use a tank, and connect the tank, and turn it on. Look at that. Whoops. Come on, stay on, you rascal. It's a marvelous device. Well, this was not going to work, I guess. Let me see if I've got the tank in place. There, that's the problem. Okay. Now let's try again. There we are. Nothing like having a new toy to play with, and then it winds out. You know, you lose the key, and you can't wind up the little toy. We'll put our frying pan on the burner, and in the meantime, I'll begin to get some beef out, and I'll show you what we can do here. Here are all of our ingredients. I'm using fresh mushrooms, bamboo shoots, celery, onions, bean curd, Chinese mushrooms, and some green onions. And, of course, first of all, the beef. I'll put that in the pan now, and while that's cooking, I'll whip up a sauce for us. I'm not worrying about oil in this because the meat has a tiny bit of fat on it. Generally use short rib for this, sliced short rib. I make this at home for the boys and for Patty in the winter time using a regular old frying pan, electric frying pan. Put it right on the old table and have a good time. Works fine. That's enough meat. Let's make a quick sauce for this. This is the traditional sauce from Japan, and it is made thusly. We want half a cup of soy sauce, like so. 3/4 of a cup of chicken broth. So this is not terribly strong, you see. 3/4 of a cup of broth. And then we want to add a bit of sake. Don't try and make good sukiyaki. This is not suki. They tell me it's skiyaki. S-U-K-I-Y-A-K-I is pronounced skiyaki. So we want about 3 tablespoons of sake, rice wine, not vinegar, but rice wine. And that does the job. Now and then, a bit of sugar. Oh, if you like it a little sweet, couple tablespoons. It's looking good, looking good. And stir that up. Now we're ready to put a bit of the sauce on the meat. You see, the meat is just about done now, ready to turn. But it needs a little bit of sauce. You do all of this at the table with your friends gathered around. Remember, these dishes were invented because there was no central heating. Now we'll put that off to one side and begin heaping in some other vegetables. Can you see me through all of this? Are you out there? Oh, I love it. Some onions. Put some bean curd in. Put them in little piles in one corner, you see. There you are. And then some bamboo shoots in the center here. Some mushrooms on this side. There we go. And let's see, what have I missed? Oh, some celery. A little bit of celery. There we are. The presentation is destroyed when you start filling up the pot, but it must look very nice when you begin. Mushrooms off to this side and some green onions kind of over the top. And let this cook for a bit. And you stir it around now and then, you see. And everyone helps themselves from the pot. And you usually, and this is the interesting part, you usually have an egg in a bowl with your chopsticks. You crack a raw egg into the bowl, whip up the egg, and everything is dished from the pot. The bowl, you see. Here we go. There. It comes right out of the pot, into the egg, and into your mouth. It's a marvelous dish. Just absolutely delicious. I really enjoy it. Skaki. Okay, let's try another one. And again, this is from the Far East. They're really into this sort of thing. If I move this a bit, I think we'll be all right. Sure. I think it's going to be ready in a moment. I think I'll turn it off. There we are. Now, this next one is again from the East and very, very delicious. We're going to go to Korea. Here's a steak cooker, a Korean steak cooker. This is an old brass one that used to go over a charcoal burner, the burner one under here, you see. And then you would lay the strips of steak on the marinated steak on the top, and the juices would trickle down into the pan here, and the steak would be grilled that way. You'd turn it maybe once. Wonderful. In our time, these gas ones, incidentally, are put out by an outfit called Eve Flame. And they're wonderful. They're all made in Japan. Look at this one. This one has, I'm setting this on my stove. It's not connected to gas, you understand. This one has the same sort of butane tank in it, but it has and you put a pan of water down the bottom here, but it has a griddle you can put on it, or it has a rack so you can do shish kebabs and that sort of thing. I want to use the steak grill. This is just like the one they have in the restaurant in New York City called, what is it? Wulu Oak? Anyhow, it's on 40, West 46. It's a terrific place. There, it's on. I want it to get good and hot now while we marinate our meat. Yes, it's very on. This should go well. Much more fun to use this kind of thing than the other because than this brass one, because you have to have charcoal going in the house, and it gets to be a little heavy. It gets to be a little heavy, so don't do it too often. There, that's going to be fine. All right, let's get a bowl and get some meat in it and a sauce for our Korean steak. The sauce is a little bit more complicated. I want 3 tablespoons of soy. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want 4 cloves of garlic. And I'm not going to fiddle around a long time with these. I'm just going to smash them right up. with my knife and throw them in there. Missed one. Get back in here. You have a wonderful future. Get in the pot. All right, the garlic goes in the soy. 4 tablespoons of soy, 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. Now we want a teaspoon of grated ginger. And for heaven's sakes, remember that you can't use dry ginger if you're going to make good Oriental cooking. There we go, about a teaspoon, I think. If you like this a little sharp, and I certainly do. This little ginger grater is a fine thing to have. You can find them in Oriental 10-cent stores if you're in that kind of the country, or you could find them in gourmet food shops. Porcelain. There you are. Now, we're going to add to that a bit of sherry or gin, a couple of tablespoons. If you're going to add sherry, make it very dry. About 3 tablespoons. I'm going to add gin. And that's very common in China. They have a rice wine in China, in Korea, and in Japan. I think it tastes something very close to benzene, to petroleum. The same odor that you have when you're pumping gas for your car. It's very, very strong, but it's wonderful for cooking. Now we want to add a half teaspoon of sugar, not to make it terribly sweet, but just get it rolling, and a dash of Tabasco. You can see some similarities in these dishes, can't you? But now you watch. That's where the similarity is going to end. A little Tabasco, because now we're going to add a sauce from China called a hoisin sauce. It's a bean paste, fermented bean paste. It's connected to soy, really. It's very close. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon. And then we want to add a couple of green onions chopped up. Remember now when you're chopping, a good cook will never stick his fingers out. Remember that? Keep those fingers bent under. I tell you that every time we're together. All right, a couple of chopped green onions. There we are. In they go. And to that, now we're going to add a tablespoon of sesame oil. And when you buy sesame oil, please be sure and get it from an Oriental merchant or the Oriental shop, part of your supermarket, because you don't want to have a raw oil. You want it a nice toasty color. This is kind of brownish. It's very beautiful. Okay, how's our burner going? Boy, that's good and hot. We better hurry along here. There we are. Now, one more ingredient, and I don't want you to put too much of this in, but it's a little bit of liquid smoke because we're not doing this over charcoal. We're going to add just a smidgen of liquid smoke that you can get in the supermarket. I think it usually is under the barbecue section, a little brown bottle full. Okay, now we have some steak strips, or you can buy a roast and cook that down. Slice it down so we can cook it. I'll show what I've done. Here we are. And we'll simply marinate these slices of roast, you see. There we go. And they will go on the griddle. And they'll cook very quickly, so you be ready with your plate. You're right in the middle of the table here, you see. You're all set to go, so we'll let these marinate for a few minutes. You should make this ahead of time and then bring it to the table arranged nicely on a plate. And we'll just put these on right this minute. Are you ready? Here we go. You don't have to lay them out flat. Just put them right on there. Oh, this smells good. Well, will you help? Come on, get off there. There you are. Now, because they're thin, you see, they'll cook very quickly. Yes, this is making a little smoke. You open those windows when you do this. I'm afraid I got my griddle awfully hot while I was talking to you. Normally, you'd be sitting right here and you could control it much better, but there it is. Well, we'll put some onions on top. We'll probably turn that once during our cooking time. Once would be sufficient. All right, I think it's ready to turn right now. Doesn't take long. And of course, everyone would have their chopsticks. I can't remember the name, I'm so sorry. At this place in New York on 46th Street, they give you your own chopsticks and they expect you to cook your dinner. And everyone sits around, mostly Korean. Wonderful Korean families there, and it's very popular with the businessmen. Isn't this fun? I had tongue fixed this way once. Raw tongue that was marinated and brought to the table, and I sat there and I cooked my lunch of tongue that had been marinated Korean style. Just delicious. Okay, that's done. Let me turn off the burner here. I'm turning it off only because I don't want it to overcook, and we'll eat it later, but you understand how it's done now, huh? Because I have one more to show you that I think is going to surprise you. I'll put this out right here. There! That's heavy. Okay. I think we can manage. One last thing. I want to I want to make an egg-filled onion. So what I'm going to do is to cut a very thick onion ring. There we are. See, prepare your onion rings like this. There. We'll make 3 of these. Okay, 3 will be enough on this one. Just to show you what I'm trying to get into. And we need some eggs. Here's everything right here. We need a couple of fresh eggs and some herbs, and we're going to make an herbed egg filling. Now the question is how you're going to keep it inside the onion ring. Well, I'll show you in a second. These are fresh brown eggs, by the way, that came to us from a friend, a little gal by the name of Michelle. Michelle's about 5 or 6, and she stopped by with a basket full of fresh tomatoes and wonderful things for me the other day. So we're cooking with all of them today. Did you see that piece of eggshell go in there? Shame on you. Not the eggshell, on you for watching so closely. Well, we'll see who gets it. Shame on me, too. I know, but I don't have time to fiddle with it. I think I've got it. Pooey. I give up. All right, we're going to put a little bit of chopped green onion in there. And we'll put some fresh fresh herbs. I have some fresh oregano. And you can also use some chives. If you don't have any fresh herbs in your garden this time of year, don't worry about it. You can use some dried ones. The point is we want to have fun with this dish. You can put in any kind of herbs you like. And a bit of salt and pepper, of course. My pepper's over here, and so is the salt. Okay, pinch of salt, just very little, and some pepper. There we go. Now then, I want some rings, some red pepper rings to fry as well. Fry on what? What are you talking about? Well, the oldest cooking device that we know of, other than the stick, you remember the second thing, was a rock. And believe it or not, we now have rocks on the market. It's literally a stone. I think they're made in Italy. Let me show you one. First of all, you need a rack. This thing comes with a rack. It's great fun for the table. You simply set it in the middle of the table. Then you go to your oven, and you've had your rock sitting in the oven for about, I need another pot holder. I don't see one. Here it is. For about an hour before dinner. And the rock is very hot, and you can cook on it for 45 minutes. You heat it for an hour, and then you cook on it for 45 minutes. So you're not wasting energy. I know it sounds like that when you put it in a hot oven, but you're not. Put it in about 500 degrees, and this is very, very hot. You've cured this with a little bit of oil first. There we are. And because I'm using this one the first time today, I'm going to put just a smidgen of oil on it. But after this, I would never oil it again. You don't have to put any oil on this, so it's a very safe way to try and cut down on oils in your family. There, ouch, that's hot. Now this sits right in the middle of the table, or close to the cook, you see. And here we go. We'll put some onion pieces, some pepper pieces on it. There we go. These are cooking away. And you hear them hissing already. And we'll put the onion rings here. And the mixture of egg goes right in the center of each one. And they'll cook beautifully, and then we'll turn them once. There. That's a big piece of herb. I don't think we need that in there. There it is. I'll get that one out, huh? Too big. Didn't chop it up enough. All right, there we are. You can make a whole bunch of those and have a good time. The point here is simple. We want to enjoy ourselves, and if you're running in and out of the kitchen when you're trying to entertain, it's no fun at all. No, you don't need all this expensive equipment. Hoka pots are about $75. These run, I don't know, probably $90. You're talking about cash. The stone is about $35, I think. But if you like to entertain, remember you're investing in good things, and you can have a good time with your friends. For me, that's very important. Channing is particularly interested in this stone. He has a good time with it. And we made Korean steak, the one that I made on the burner, this one. I made that on the stone just a couple of weeks ago, and it came off very, very well. Now, you would use a pancake turner. This is not quite done yet. That's what's happening. Well, they're just doing fine, but they're not done yet. Takes a minute here to get them going, and we'll turn these over as soon as they set, but I don't think you're going to have time to turn them. So, there we have cooking around the table, sitting in the middle, going back to the old days when they didn't have central heating, and you used to huddle around the fire in order to keep warm. That's the birth of sukiyaki, that's the birth of the hoka pot, and certainly the birth of the grill in Korea. So today, we have entertained one another, and certainly ourselves, with Korean steak. Yes, you can do that just in your electric frying pan. It won't have that crunchy brown on it, but it will work. Or on a little charcoal broiler out in the backyard. We've used a stone, an old cooking device, to make some fried peppers and some onion rings filled with herbed eggs. And we've cooked traditional sukiyaki from Japan in a frying pan right on the stove, right on the table. You can use an electric frying pan, of course. And in this pot we have, in this elaborate old bronze or brass pot, tin-lined, of course, we have hoko pot, sometimes called hot pot or chrysanthemum pot. There it is. You can eat very, very well around the table together as a common family and as a common community. All of these things come from a communal mindset, you see. The idea of eating privately is unknown when you cook this way. Maybe we should give up on the TV tray and think again about feasting together around the table. It's about time, and I'm ready for you. Until we eat together again then, this is the Frugal Gourmet. I bid you peace. Bye-bye.